HOA Karen called my front porch. Too bright. Now it's a disco ball. The night my front porch became a neighborhood legend, Karen stood in the middle of our cul-de-sac, drenched in glitter, screaming like a banshee while my disco ball spun rainbows across her pristine lawn. I didn't set out to humiliate the HOA president, but when you poke a mama bear who's just trying to make her kids smile, you get what's coming. This is the story of how a single mother turned a petty complaint into a dazzling act of revenge and accidentally taught a neighborhood tyrant a lesson in kindness. I'm Jamie, a 34-year-old single mom to my 8-year-old daughter, Lily. We moved to Willow Creek, a cookie-cutter suburban neighborhood, 6 months ago, hoping for a fresh start after a rough divorce. Our little ranch-style house wasn't much, but I poured my heart into making it ours. The front porch became my pride and joy, a cozy nook with fairy lights, colorful lanterns, and potted plants. Every evening, Lily and I would sit there, sipping lemonade, waving at neighbors, and giggling over silly stories. The lights weren't just decor, they were a beacon of warmth in a world that sometimes felt too dark. Enter Karen, the HOA president and self-appointed queen of Willow Creek. 50-something, with a bleach blonde bob and a permanent scowl, Karen ruled the neighborhood like a dictator in yoga pants. She'd patrol the streets with a clipboard, citing people for untrimmed hedges or unauthorized mailbox colors. Everyone whispered about her, but nobody dared cross her. I'd heard the rumors. Karen once fined a family for their kids' chalk drawings on the sidewalk. But I figured if I kept my head down, we'd be fine. Spoiler, I was wrong. It started with a letter slipped into my mailbox on a crisp October morning. In bold, passive-aggressive font, it read, "Your front porch lighting violates HOA guidelines for excessive brightness. Dim or remove immediately or face a $200 fine." Signed, of course, by Karen. I was stunned. My lights were hardly Vegas level. They were just enough to make the porch feel alive. Lily loved them, and neighbors had even complimented the vibe. But Karen apparently had decided my porch was a personal affront to her existence. I tried reasoning with her. I knocked on her door, letter in hand, and politely asked what the issue was. Big mistake. Karen opened the door, sized me up like I was a cockroach, and snapped, "Your tacky lights are keeping the whole street awake. This isn't a carnival, Jessica." She got my name wrong. Classic. I explained that the lights were for Lily, that they were within HOA wattage limits, but Karen cut me off. "I don't care about your sob story. Follow the rules or I'll escalate this." Then she slammed the door in my face. I was fuming. Not only was Karen wrong, my lights were fully compliant, but her arrogance was next level. She didn't even bother to check the rules or talk to me like a human. To her, I was just some low-life single mom ruining her perfect neighborhood. That's when I decided, if Karen wanted a fight, she'd get one. But I wasn't going to stoop to her level. My revenge would be bright, bold, and gloriously petty. Over the next few days, I pored over the HOA handbook like it was a battle strategy manual. Turns out, Karen's complaint was baseless. There was no rule against excessive brightness, only a vague clause about disturbing the peace. But there were rules about decorations, wattage, and noise, and I saw my loophole. I could keep my lights, crank up the flare, and stay within the guidelines. Better yet, I could make Karen's head explode without breaking a single rule. My plan? Turn my porch into a disco ball extravaganza. I'd add reflective panels, spinning disco balls, and synchronized LED strips that pulsed to music, just quiet enough to avoid a noise violation. It'd be so over the top that Karen would lose her mind, but she'd have no grounds to complain. I recruited my neighbor, Mike, a retired electrician with a grudge against Karen. She'd once cited him for a weedy lawn that was just clover. Mike was all in, grinning like a kid at the thought of sticking it to her. Lily, meanwhile, thought it was the coolest idea ever. "Can we make it sparkly, Mommy?" she asked, eyes wide. "Oh, sweetie," I said. "It's gonna be the sparkliest thing this neighborhood's ever seen." The next week was a whirlwind of glitter and scheming. Mike and I turned my garage into a disco ball laboratory, ordering supplies online like we were prepping for a Vegas show. Reflective mosaic tiles, 3 spinning disco balls, programmable LED strips, and a tiny Bluetooth speaker for just under the limit music. Every piece was chosen to maximize dazzle while staying HOA compliant. Lily helped by sorting tiles into piles, giggling about how Auntie Karen's gonna freak. I didn't correct her. Karen didn't deserve the title, but Lily's enthusiasm was infectious. We worked late into the nights, stringing lights and testing patterns. Mike rigged a motion sensor to trigger the full display whenever someone walked by, ensuring Karen would get the show every time she patrolled. The pièce de résistance, a custom playlist of cheesy disco hits, think Stayin' Alive and Disco Inferno, set to play at a whisper-quiet 30 decibels. It was obnoxious enough to annoy Karen, but legal enough to keep her powerless. By Friday, the porch was ready, a shimmering, pulsating monument to petty revenge. The grand reveal was set for Saturday evening, when the whole neighborhood would be home. I invited a few friendly neighbors over for a porch party, framing it as a fun way to brighten the weekend. Word spread, and by dusk a small crowd had gathered on my lawn, sipping lemonade and whispering excitedly. Karen, predictably, was nowhere to be seen, probably plotting her next citation. That is, until the motion sensor tripped. The moment she stepped out her front door, my porch erupted. Lights flashed in neon pinks and blues, disco balls spun, and Boogie Wonderland hummed softly. The crowd gasped, then burst into laughter. Karen froze, her clipboard slipping from her hand as rainbow reflections danced across her horrified face. "What is this?" she shrieked, storming toward my house. I stepped onto the porch, all smiles, and said, "Just following HOA rules, Karen. You wanted less brightness, so I got creative." She was livid, spitting threats about fines and lawsuits, but I held up the HOA handbook and read aloud. "No rule against reflective decor or synchronized lighting under 50 watts. The crowd snickered as Karen's face turned beet red. For once, she was speechless. But I wasn't done. I'd rigged one final surprise, a glitter bomb sprinkler head, disguised as a lawn ornament, set to spray if anyone tampered with my setup, and Karen, in her rage, was about to trigger it. It happened faster than I could have hoped. Karen, determined to shut down my display, stomped onto my lawn and yanked at a disco ball. Big mistake. The sprinkler head popped up, dousing her in a cloud of eco-friendly, biodegradable glitter. She screamed, flailing as the sparkly mist clung to her yoga pants and bob. The crowd roared with laughter, phones out, recording the chaos. A nearby sprinkler, accidentally nudged by her tantrum, joined in, soaking her further. Karen stood there, a glitter-drenched, waterlogged mess, as my porch pulsed triumphantly behind her. The neighborhood lost it. Kids cheered, adults clapped, and even grumpy old Mr. Henderson, who never smiled, let out a wheezy chuckle. Karen's humiliation was complete, but the real shock came next. As she stumbled back to her house, still ranting, she tripped over her own "no soliciting" sign, landing face first in her prized petunias. The crowd gasped, then fell silent. For a moment, I thought she'd sue me into oblivion, but then something unexpected happened. Karen sat up, covered in dirt and glitter, and started to cry. Not angry tears, real gut-wrenching sobs. The crowd dispersed, uncomfortable, and I felt a pang of guilt. Had I gone too far? Lily tugged my sleeve, whispering, "Mommy, is she okay?" I didn't know. But as I watched Karen sit there, defeated, I realized this wasn't just about petty revenge anymore. Something deeper was at play. I walked over, offering a hand. "Karen, let's get you cleaned up." She looked up, mascara streaking, and for the first time I saw vulnerability in her eyes. She took my hand, trembling, and muttered, I didn't mean for this." It was the closest thing to an apology I'd ever get, but it was enough to make me pause. Maybe Karen wasn't just a tyrant. Maybe she was human too. As I helped Karen to her feet, the neighborhood watched in stunned silence. The glitter-soaked HOA tyrant, usually so untouchable, looked small and broken. I led her to my porch, where Lily handed her a towel with a shy smile. Karen took it, mumbling a shaky thanks. We sat her down, and I poured her a glass of lemonade. For the first time, she wasn't barking orders or citing rules. She was just Karen, a woman who'd lost her way. Between sips, she started talking. "I wasn't always like this," she said, voice barely above a whisper. "After my husband left, I threw myself into the HOA. It was the only thing I could control." She admitted she'd been jealous of my porch, not the lights, but the joy it brought. "You and Lily, You have something I forgot how to have. Her words hit hard. Karen wasn't a monster. She was lonely, clinging to power because it was all she had left. I could have gloated, but something in her eyes stopped me. Instead, I said, "We all mess up, Karen, but you can start over. Join us sometime. Lily loves new friends." She looked at me like I'd grown two heads, then nodded slowly. It wasn't a hallmark moment, but it was a start. The next day, I expected Karen to retaliate, but instead, she showed up at my door with a handwritten note. "I'm sorry," it read, "and your porch is beautiful." I nearly fell over. Karen apologizing? It was like the Grinch growing a heart. She even proposed an HOA rule change, allowing more creative decor, citing my porch as inspirational. The neighborhood meeting where she pitched it was a riot. Half the room thought she'd been body snatched. But the real punchline came a week later. Karen, inspired by my disco ball, decided to host a block party, her first ever. She asked for my help, and I couldn't resist. We turned her lawn into a mini dance floor, complete with my disco balls and a playlist of Lily's favorite songs. The whole neighborhood showed up, stunned to see Karen laughing, twirling kids around, and even wearing a sparkly headband. She'd traded her clipboard for a glow stick, and damn if it wasn't the best party Willow Creek had ever seen. As the night wound down, Karen pulled me aside. "I was wrong about you, Jamie, and about a lot of things. Thank you for not giving up on me." I smiled, thinking of Lily's beaming face as she danced with her new Auntie Karen. "Just keep the glitter, Karen," I teased. "It suits you." That night, my porch glowed as always, but it felt different. It wasn't just a beacon for Lily and me anymore. It was a reminder that even the prickliest people can change if you meet their anger with a little kindness. And yeah, maybe a glitter bomb or two. Willow Creek was never the same. Karen stepped down as HOA president, passing the torch to Mike, who promptly banned fines for chalk drawings. My porch stayed dazzling, but now it had a rival. Karen's front yard, where she hung her own fairy lights. A quiet nod to the woman who'd shown her how to shine again. So here's to honor for standing up when it counts, to gratitude for the neighbors who laugh with you, and to kindness, which can turn a Karen into a friend. Oh, and to disco balls, because nothing says screw you like a sparkle that saves the day. The end.